11th of April 2019, the Miami Heat sat level with the Charlotte Hornets on a record of 39-42, which had them a game behind the 8th seed Detroit Pistons and 2 games behind the Orlando Magic and Brooklyn Nets, who held the 7th and 6th seed respectively. In the final game of the 2020 season, the Heat were embracing the swan song of Dwayne Wade, the franchise's greatest player and one of the NBA's greats, who was preparing to play his last game in the NBA and his last game for the franchise. In honor of their franchise's greatest player, they let him take the wheel one last time against Brooklyn, as he jacked up near 30 shots and recorded a 25-point triple-double, a pretty fitting way to end his career for the Heat, despite the loss. Alongside Wade, the Heat featured another retiring legend, Udonis Haslem, whose 16-year career with the Heat was coming to an end. The rest of the lineup saw Goran Dragic start at the point, Winslow at the 3, and Kelly Olynyk at the 4, with some notable names in Bam Adebayo and Duncan Robinson coming off the bench. Quickly before I get into the video, if you could drop a like right now, that would be much appreciated, because it is very beneficial for me and it doesn't cost you anything, so it seems like a win-win situation. But anyways, let's get into it. Now, following an underwhelming 2019 season, the Heat made a major splash in free agency as they acquired Jimmy Butler in a 4-team trade, which saw them depart with Josh Richardson and Hassan Whiteside. So with the addition of Butler, many expected the Heat to show improvements and see the playoffs following a year out, with many expecting a record increase of around 5 wins. However, the Heat exceeded those expectations, and it was made very clear that they were a serious contender as they continued to rack up wins before finishing the shortened season with 41 of a possible 65 wins and sitting comfortably as the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference. But how did the Miami Heat go from a 39-43 team to a 41-24 team and one of the NBA's dark horse teams to make it out of the Eastern Conference in the space of 1 year? Much was made of the Jimmy Butler trade. In 2019, the Heat had shown a solid core of players, but were lacking a number 1 option, an all-star caliber player, and someone who had proven to be an excellent playoff performer previously, and Butler provided exactly that. But his impact hasn't been as straightforward as we might have expected. It might have been expected that Jimmy would come in and provide his 20 points per game to go along with his hard-nosed defense that sets the tone for the team as a unit defensively, and he has done exactly that. But an aspect of his game that has been better than ever before is his playmaking, and the trust he has shown in his teammates, whether it be rookies Tyler Herro and Kendrick Nunn, or sharpshooter Duncan Robinson, or rising star Bam Adebayo, Jimmy has shown no hesitation dishing the ball to any number of his teammates with the utmost confidence they will convert, and that has been evident with Butler ranking 23rd in the NBA for assists on 3-pointers amongst some highly regarded guards. Much has been made of the impact that Jimmy has had, alongside the great rookie seasons Nunn and Herro have had and the vast improvement of Adebayo, and this is all warranted praise, which we will get into, but first we have to talk about a player that has been so crucial to the Heat's success, it's unbelievable, and that's Duncan Robinson. We know how vital 3-point shooting is in today's landscape. You see the value of 3-point shooters all the time, whether it be teams throwing shooters a bag or giving up significant assets for 3-and-D players. The NBA clearly values a player's ability to shoot effectively from beyond the arc. And when we talk about shooting from beyond the arc, there are very few players in the NBA that do so more effectively than Robinson. In fact, the only player that scored more points from catch-and-shoot opportunities is Davis Bertans, who narrowly edged out Robinson by 0.1 points. However, amongst players that attempt at least 2 catch-and-shoot threes a game, Robinson is quite comfortably the most efficient, boasting a ridiculous effective field goal percentage of 68.3%, which is just absurd, I don't need to tell you that. So he isn't just making shots at volume, but he's doing so at an unbelievable efficiency. The numbers are just so impressive, you genuinely have to take a second to get your head around what he is doing for this Heat team. But what exactly is he doing for this Heat team apart from knocking down catch and shoot threes at a rapid rate? Now, with every great shooter comes spacing and a pressure on defenses to make split decisions that so often result in the wrong decision because of that pressure. We have seen it with Steph Curry. His off-ball movement and gravity leaves an abundance of space for his teammates to fill, as he so often draws multiple defenders to him. Now, evidently not at the same level as Curry, because who is? Robinson has that effect. Last season he had very little influence on the Heat, and since then there have been personnel changes and some rookie inclusions who have made impacts from beyond the arc, but the most notable shooting has come in the form of Robinson, and this shooting has been so prevalent that the Heat have gone from the 21st ranked 3-point shooting team in the league in 2019 to the number 1 ranked 3-point shooting team in 2020, a 3.5% jump over the space of just a year. Now, Robinson isn't the kind of guy to take you off the dribble like a Curry or a Harden. In fact, an incredible 94% of his baskets come off assists. So with a seemingly one-dimensional game, how does he find himself so often to make 3 after 3 after 3? A number of these good looks can come off dribble handoff screens, with Adebayo being a big component, using his frame and ball handling ability to get to a spot before handing the ball off to Robinson and preventing his trailing defender from closing the space. Now, there are several other ways the Heat's sharpshooter finds himself open. His persistent off-ball movement, whether that involves giving the ball up and getting it back on more than one occasion throughout the same passage of play, or it be running around screens at such an intensity and frequency that the defender cannot keep up with him on a number of occasions throughout the game. It's not even a question whether or not Duncan will provide shooting for the Heat during the postseason, because he's going to have to, and I expect him to. He went from strength to strength during this year's regular season, as he averaged 16 points per game on 47% from beyond the arc over the last 20 games of the season, jacking up more threes as he became more and more comfortable at the NBA level, and scoring more points as a result, which hasn't looked like slowing down off the basis of his first game in Orlando. Offensively, Robinson can be the tone setter for the Heat. They will more than likely look to get him firing early because he will either continue to score or the defense will lock in on him to the point where other players are left open, which either way it's a win-win for the Heat. But evidently Miami have a lot more to offer than just Duncan Robinson. They have one of the best centers in the league in Bam Adebayo, a proven playoff performer and all-star level player in Jimmy Butler, and a host of other impactful role players, including one of this season's most underrated sixth men, Goran Dragic, who has quietly been as good as you could hope for coming off the bench. But as good as the role players have been, and I expect them to continue being, let's focus on the two stars, the two players that will need to have a major say if the Heat can beat the best teams in the Eastern Conference come playoff time. Last year's champions, the Toronto Raptors, Kawhi Leonard, Pascal Siakam, Kyle Lowry, Nick Nurse, and a host of other great role players. A team that deserved their championship and got it off the back of some incredible series wins against the Warriors, Bucks, and the 76ers. Sorry, Magic fans. Now, we all know that the 76ers took the Raptors to the last game and the last shot of that game, but we forget who the driving force was for that team that caused the Raptors so much trouble. Jimmy Buckets was clearly the best player for the 76ers, and even had a few games in which he matched Kawhi for the best player on the court. To see Butler show the ability to excel against the eventual champions and one of the league's best defensive teams is really promising for the Heat heading into the playoffs. But what is even more promising is the fact the Heat have built around Jimmy, and everyone in that team seems to respect him as a leader and the number one option on that team, which didn't seem to always be the case in Philly. And no matter how good or deep your team is, you always need that player that you can rely upon in the playoffs, because the game will inevitably slow down and will become harder and harder to move the ball fluidly against the league's best defenses. So Butler's ability to draw contact and get to the line, plus just score in the postseason, is going to be incredibly crucial. Going from the offensive load that I expect Jimmy and Robinson to have to carry come playoff time, the other Heat star will certainly have a role to play offensively, but it's the defensive Bam Adebayo that will be so crucial for Miami and could be the ultimate X factor come playoff time. One thing that we know about the Eastern Conference is there are some fantastic big men, whether it be the reigning MVP or Joel Embiid or Domantas Sabonis. A number of these playoff teams' go-to scorers are big men and are all players that will find themselves matched up against one of this year's most improved players. The NBA loves versatile big men, both offensively and defensively. Now, we know Bam is capable of displaying that offensive versatility, but it's his defensive versatility that has been so incredible this season. The Heat are currently rated the 14th best defense in the league, which is far from great, and not where you'd expect a team with the likes of Butler and Bam to be placed. But with Bam on the court, the Heat go from the 14th ranked defense to the 6th ranked defense. And his defensive ability was made incredibly evident when guarding the Greek Freak. Not many have the tools to slow down Giannis, but one player who might is Adebayo. Bam has a unique combination of everything really from a physical standpoint. He's incredibly strong, gets off the floor vertically, can move laterally with quickness, and has demonstrated some much improved timing when going up for blocks and picking off the passing lanes. And this incredible physical presence was demonstrated against Giannis as he held him to a shooting percentage of 34.8 when guarded by Bam in the regular season, an incredible 20% below his regular shooting percentage. And with a likely matchup against one of the Pacers or 76ers in the first round, this ability to defend the dominant big men in the league will be crucial going up against two of the biggest teams in the NBA. The Heat have implemented one of the best three-point shooters in the league into their roster, which has had and will continue to have an incredible impact for that team offensively. Butler has been great all year and proved his ability to score in tough playoff games last season, which will be what his young team needs when the ball movement slows down and it becomes more of a slugfest. You then have the array of role players like Nunn, Herro, Iggy, Crowder, Dragic, and so on, who have a combination of playoff experience and upside that will be crucial to this team's success. And you have the big man anchoring the defense, who has shown major improvements so far this year, and I expect to get even better following the last few months away from the game. I didn't even mention one of the league's best coaches in Erik Spoelstra. There is plenty of reason for Heat fans to be optimistic about this team's chances in the playoffs, and plenty of reason for opposition fans to be worried about what headaches this team could provide. Let me know if you think they can make it all the way to the finals. Hope you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more later.